2, 3, 4.
And welcome to the NESN Soccer Show Deadline Edition. Deadline Transfer Watch. I'm Mark. You're Marcus. Here we are. Very close to getting. Oh, you laughed. All right. But deadline day has come and gone, or at least almost for us. We're recording. It's about 2 minutes until the deadline is official. We're taking our chances.
Lionel Messi better not join Real Madrid in the next 2 minutes.
We're pretty sure it's all dead and quiet at this point. If there was something coming up, we probably would have waited, but it doesn't seem like there's anything.
No, we're good to go.
But there was like a striker merry-go-round on deadline day, as you like to say, or what you came up with. I guess the biggest name is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, but also Olivier Giroud. But they kind of all moved around. They wouldn't have moved if it weren't for all the moves kind of happening at the same time. It's sort of like, I wouldn't have gone unless you go. Right, I'll go if you go.
Right.
But
hence the merry-go-round.
Right.
You need three parties involved to make it a merry-go-round.
Yeah.
And, of course, someone to spin it, which would be money.
Money.
Yeah.
So why don't you kind of take us through this, which domino fell first and why these moves married around?
Sure. It's actually fairly simple. It all centers around Aubameyang, who Arsenal wanted to bolster their attacking options, as we talked about last week. They lost Alexis Sanchez, sold him to Manchester United. So where are the goals going to come from? They went after one of the top goal scorers in Europe over the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, he scores more than a goal every other game for Dortmund in the Bundesliga. 28 years old, he's in his prime. He wanted to leave Dortmund last summer. There was some issue that kept him there. There were a couple bouts of indiscipline where he was suspended or dropped for games, fined a bunch of times, but he really wanted to leave Dortmund. So that sort of started it all. Arsenal, knowing they need to replace Alexis Sanchez, identified Aubameyang, contacted him, did some negotiations. The negotiations dragged on for about a week with Dortmund, but Arsenal knew Aubameyang wanted to come. So in order to make that happen, Dortmund needs a replacement.
Yeah.
That's where Giroud comes in. Dortmund wanted Giroud. They actually wanted him last summer. He didn't want to leave because his family is settled in London. So he wasn't going to go to Germany.
Yeah.
Enter Chelsea. Chelsea needs a backup striker.
Now, you said this was simple when you started.
Yeah. Oh, this is going on for about a minute. Chelsea needed a striker to back up Alvaro Morata. And they've been searching far and wide for somebody who's kind of tall, good in the air, good with his head. And Giroud was the guy. So Chelsea loaned Michy Batshuayi, who was their red-headed stepchild of a backup striker, to Dortmund. Arsenal sold Olivier Giroud, who the fans love, but Arsenal fans also know that he's not going to strike them to the Premier League or Champions League title.
Yeah.
Sells them to Chelsea for about £18 million, which is probably about what he's worth. Nobody really made out in that deal, but he settled in London. He knows the league. He knows the language.
Yeah.
And then Arsenal got their man, club record signing, Aubameyang.
Because it kind of we talk about these three guys being the merry-go-round, but it kind of starts with Alexis Sanchez.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's even more than like a ripple effect. It's kind of the waves after that of what that move caused. But I look at Aubameyang as kind of the biggest addition for Arsenal, and we'll get into why Arsenal really had a really great transfer window this year. But it's kind of the biggest move that sticks out for me. Giroud didn't want to leave England, didn't want to leave London, I guess.
Right.
So he kind of just moves down the street. But, it's kind of the craziness of deadline day. This is deadline day at its finest.
Yeah, it was a great January
we don't always get
window.
something like this.
It's
been very busy.
January transfer windows are usually duds. They usually the last 5 years, they've just been ho-hum. I've even stopped doing a transfer deadline day live blog in January because not much goes on.
Yeah.
This January has been fantastic. And I think this is all kind of fallout from the Neymar move, is that the market has changed.
Yeah.
And some teams are able to do different things, or some teams feel the need to do different things that they didn't feel that before. And yeah, you're seeing big players move in January, finally.
Well, there's more. Lucas Moura moves from PSG to Tottenham. This kind of has a lot of different layers to it. He's a Brazilian international.
Yeah, not
but
that many.
Neymar and Kylian Mbappe are having incredible years. Everybody knew that Neymar was going to have an incredible year. Mbappe kind of really blossoming into one of the best players in the world, sort of. But also, it's just an easy way for them to drop some money and stay underneath the financial fair play window or ceiling, whatever you want to call it.
Threshold, even.
Threshold. But I think this is a really good player that is a great addition for Tottenham, and PSG kind of needed to unload a little bit.
It'll be interesting because Lucas he had a great season last season. He's been at PSG since maybe 2012, 2013. Been there for a while. He was a regular starter last season. I think he played 34, 35 games in all competitions, and he was looking to have a good season this season. All of a sudden, Neymar shows up, and then Mbappe shows up a few weeks later, and I don't think he's played. I think he's only made 6 appearances in the first half of the season. He's really an afterthought. So he's trading Paris for London, moving to a club that's going places, and yeah, it's probably a good step for him to take his career, try himself out in England. But the timing is questionable because there's this little thing called the World Cup coming up. 4 months from now, 4+ months from now, and Lucas has to get regular games. I'm not sure if that's going to happen at Tottenham, where Dele Alli, Christian Eriksen, and Heung-min Son are the ones who are, that they play on that 3-person line below Harry Kane. Lucas is more of a natural winger, where those others like to cut inside and so. His arrival will allow Tottenham to maybe play a different way, open up the center a little bit, because he's a real old school winger. He likes to stay on the sidelines, and he's even going bald like Arjen Robben.
I think with the Brazilian international team, Neymar is still there. Kind of there's not many spots available because it's Brazil, but if he's playing regularly on Tottenham and they're using him in that wide spot, like you said,
and he's eligible to play in the Champions League as well. So
that's kind of an indication that he probably will make the Brazilian squad if he's getting consistent minutes with Tottenham, because of how difficult it is to get onto the field for Tottenham. No?
I'm skeptical.
You're skeptical?
Yeah.
Regardless of if he's playing well with Tottenham?
If he's playing well for Tottenham, he probably makes Brazil's squad. The problem is, I don't see him, barring injury, displacing any of the players I mentioned before. So if he's coming in the 70th minute of every game, what's that going to do for his international prospects? You're not going to make Brazil's World Cup team being half fit or not quite fresh because you haven't played all season. It's a gamble for him, less of a gamble for Tottenham. 25 million, getting a pretty good player.
All right, so one move that didn't happen is Riyad Mahrez wants out of Leicester City, but they're kind of hanging on to him for dear life. Manchester City bid £60 million. That's one of the bids they made, but they made apparently several.
They've gone between 50 and I think they went up to 60 or 65 million.
So now you got a player that wants to leave. They're getting kind of an okay offer, but Leicester City says they want £100 million for this player. Do you think he's worth that? And do you think are they just being too selfish with that asking price?
Mahrez, in today's market, no, he's worth closer to 60, 65. He was the PFA, the Players Union Player of the Year, 2 seasons ago during Leicester's title-winning season. Had a little dip in form last season, but this season he's doing very well. He's back to his best, where at the beginning of the season, or in the summer transfer window, he wanted to leave. And Leicester convinced him to stay. They held on to him. And I think they sort of made a gentleman's pact that he would be allowed to leave if and when the right offer came along. Well, Manchester City doesn't come calling every week. And he really wanted to go. And Leicester City said no, held on to him. One of his friends did an interview with Sky Sports and said he's depressed about it. And he's really angry, really sad. That's not going to be good for the Foxes.
Would he be getting regular minutes with Manchester City, though?
No.
Yeah, so I don't see what he's so
not as many as he would at Leicester City.
He's a bona fide starter with Leicester City.
Right.
With Man City, you're going to be
Leroy Sané
searching for minutes.
Leroy Sané just suffered an injury. He'll be out for the next 2 months. So I think Riyad Mahrez, who wasn't on Manchester City's radar, so far as I know, before last week, all of a sudden becomes Pep Guardiola's preferred option. Now, what you're talking about is a stopgap for 2 months. £60 million is that's a pretty high price for a stopgap.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to winners and losers of the transfer window. We both agree that Arsenal had the best transfer window of any European club. They signed Aubameyang, as we mentioned. They got Henrik Mkhitaryan, but they sold Alexis Sanchez, Olivier Giroud, Theo Walcott, Francis Coquelin. Yes. Sorry. But they strengthened their defense. Aubameyang is a very serviceable attacking player to replace Sanchez. What are your thoughts on why do you think that they are in a better position now than in the end of December?
Because for a number of reasons. One, Alexis Sanchez wanted out. He wanted to go, and I don't think that was a secret. I think his future was disruptive behind the scenes. So you take that out of the equation. Now, last week we talked about how Alexis Sanchez, if he went to, when he went to Manchester United, we couldn't evaluate Arsenal's transfer window until deadline day because we thought Aubameyang was perhaps coming. His arrival makes this a win for Arsenal. We call them the biggest winners. I would say they had the most exciting transfer window by far, where they got the striker they wanted. They didn't lose Sanchez for nothing because they got Mkhitaryan in. There's a young Greek kid who's a defender. I'm not going to even try and pronounce his name properly, but he's 20 years old, been in the squad a couple times. We don't know too much about him. And the fourth wild card, which hasn't been announced yet, but it might come down either today or tomorrow, is that Mesut Ozil is most likely going to sign a contract extension with Arsenal. So the nightmare scenario was losing Alexis for nothing, losing Ozil for nothing, and possibly even Jack Wilshere, whose contract is expiring this summer. Instead, they lose Sanchez, get Mkhitaryan, get Aubameyang. Arsenal's in, I think they've strengthened their attack. And they've also sold Giroud, they've sold Walcott, they've sold Coquelin. 3 players who were eating up money on their wage bill and weren't performing to the level that Arsenal needs them to in order to get back into the top 4 or even, chase major trophies.
Right. So I think this was such an exciting window for Arsenal because there were matches today, but they were sitting in 5th. They're kind of right on the cusp of Champions League qualification.
They're down in 6th now, yeah.
And they're hoping, I think, that these moves will shuffle up the roster and maybe spark some spirits in the players a little bit, and they go on a little bit of a run and are safely in the top 4 spots to qualify for Champions League.
I don't see that happening. The problem with Arsenal.
Problem
with Arsenal, I'm going to tell you. The problem with Arsenal is that there have been these glaring weaknesses for the last 5, 10, 40 years where they need a top center back and a leader in midfield, somebody strong, somebody who's going to organize. They were the 2 glaring problems with Arsenal, and they have been forever and a day. Well, those problems are still there, but what they did do is react to Sanchez's imminent departure in a way that left them stronger than they were at the beginning of the month. So I won't give them an A for the transfer window, but B+.
B+? Yeah. All right, now the loser, and we were thinking about this, and we were thinking about losers it's not really a gigantic loser, but a club that we kind of thought.
Well, we found one.
We thought maybe would make a move given their standing in their league and their fall off from where they have been the last 2 years is Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of hard to criticize them because they're back-to-back Champions League champions, but they're in 4th place in La Liga and, almost 20 points behind Barcelona for first, who is, that's where they measure themselves, those two teams. And just kind of surprising that they have been dead silent throughout the entire transfer window. I think the only thing I even saw was some outrageous Ronaldo rumor, which we get, a couple times a year.
Yeah.
So, it's just kind of surprising to not see any rumors from them. I guess they think they're going to straighten things out and figure it out and be fine.
I have a feeling Real Madrid is going all in on the Champions League this year, trying to make it a hat trick. They're 16 points behind Barcelona. Their title defense, their La Liga title defense, is done.
It's no chance.
They still have a shot at the Champions League if they get things right, get hot in the back end of the season. They can still win it. They're out of the Copa del Rey, so it's Champions League or they end the season trophyless. Why did they do nothing this winter, this January? Well, I think they're going to really break the bank this summer on somebody, and they're linked with so many big players: Neymar, Eden Hazard, Harry Kane. Real Madrid has been linked with all these players this season, and I have a feeling Cristiano Ronaldo might not be there at the end of the summer transfer window. So,
you think so?
Yeah. I think Real Madrid is. I think they're going to make a splash this summer.
I'm done trying to figure out if Ronaldo or Messi are going anywhere. Although we will talk about a Messi transfer rumor later on in the show.
They're not going anywhere now, but look out 6 months. Cristiano Ronaldo could leave after the World Cup. There's this contract dispute. His form has dipped a little bit in domestic competition. So, Real Madrid they're sitting down, and this is what it is for the season. They didn't start their summer business early like some other teams. Arsenal.
When September rolls around, I'm probably going to go find this clip and play it back to you when we see Ronaldo take the field for Real Madrid again.
I didn't say he's leaving. I said he might leave.
Okay.
Nuance, Mark.
So, speaking of big names in the January transfer window, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the 36-year-old injured attacking player, rumored to LA Galaxy, but there's also a rumor that he's already signed a contract.
Yeah, that came out today, actually.
There's no real solid evidence of it. LA Galaxy hasn't announced it. Zlatan hasn't announced it. And I think in general, maybe MLS fans are getting a little tired of old stars coming to MLS and kind of dogging it for a couple of years. But Zlatan's kind of a different breed. He's very exciting, and he's so outgoing, and he's a character. I think it'd be awesome for him to be in LA. Yeah,
there are some players that, they're old, but they are transcendent players. Zlatan is one of them.
Yeah.
And he's the type of player who, if he comes to Major League Soccer, he's going to get global attention. He's going to do things. He still can do things that no other player can do. He does it a bit slower now than he did 3 or 4 years ago, but we're still talking about somebody who's a proven winner everywhere he goes and is technically gifted. And, we're talking about this is a worldwide battle for attention, and having one of the great showmen of the last 10, 15 years can only be good for you.
Yeah.
And he'll probably, if he goes to the Galaxy, you have to peg them in as potential winners.
I'm just imagining Zlatan in LA leading some sort of Sweden World Cup watch party when July rolls around, June and July, and him scoring goals and thrilling fans, and it's kind of a disguise because he's playing in the MLS. Not that he's going to dominate. I don't think he'll dominate or anything, but there will be these flashes.
If he goes to MLS?
So he'll look like he sort of used to look, say PSG, and it'll just kind of be fun and a pleasure to watch.
It'll be very fun, yeah. That's the word I've been searching for.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Elsewhere in MLS, we got the official announcement, although we thought we already had an official announcement, but there was another official announcement that Miami will receive an MLS expansion team. David Beckham, one of the owners, spearheading this effort in Miami. Still a lot to figure out. We didn't get many announcements on stadium, coach, general manager, what else to expect.
Team name. When
colors.
They'll start playing.
But there will be a team, apparently. It's really exciting. And I think the coolest thing was that we got a gigantic amount of celebrities and sort of Miami people, you'd say, that congratulated David Beckham. And we have that video for you, so we're going to play that right now.
Welcome to Miami.
MLS is coming to Miami.
It'll be a great addition to the MLS.
David and Marcelo, I had no idea that by introducing you guys, me, history would be made.
Hey, if you need anything, just let me know. You know, that's kind of my town.
Grande abraço e parabéns mais uma vez. Boa sorte.
Hi, Daddy. Congratulations.
Dad, I can't believe you're going to be a club owner. It's so cool. We're all so proud of you.
I'm so proud of you. I can't wait to see what players you sign.
We can't wait to be spending much more time in Miami as a family.
You need a striker, I'm the guy.
I'm so excited. So, welcome to Miami, neighbor.
Miami, soccer team. Bless up.
Congratulations to Marcelo. Congratulations to DB on the new Miami team.
I am so excited that we get to spend more time in Miami and keep eating cabanas. I'm so proud of you.
Hi, Daddy. I can't wait to see your first football match.
Hola, David. Bueno, antes que nada, felicitaciones. Quería desearte muchísima suerte en este nuevo proyecto, en esta nueva etapa tuya. Y bueno, quién sabe, en unos añitos me hace un llamadito.
I think that's kind of what we can expect from Miami FC. Or I'm sorry, not Miami FC. We don't know what the name is going to be. But it's kind of like the celebrity factor and like the glitz and glamour. Lionel Messi, everybody freaking out about this, that he said, hey, give me a call in a couple of years.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think he was just being a little cheeky.
That'd be, I mean, yeah, I don't think he'd ever come to MLS. But, I mean, just big stakes. We got DJ Khaled. He works his way into everything. Like, why is DJ Khaled in every video I ever see? But then we got like Jay-Z and Tom Brady and Serena Williams and Will Smith. I mean, Miami, the song came out like 20 years ago, but somehow it's still Will Smith's town.
Yeah. I'm surprised Pitbull didn't make an appearance.
Pitbull should probably be in there. Maybe Giancarlo or no, he's on the Yankees now.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what is exciting about Miami being in the MLS. But at the same time, they kind of struggle with all their sports teams in having a true fan base and a solid, like, recurring, people loyal to their teams.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What's your biggest takeaway from this announcement?
That it wasn't much different than what we saw 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Beckham announced his intention to buy a team or to exercise his $25 million option to own a team back in, what year are we? 2018? Back in 2014. So there was a glitzy press conference, and it was like Beckham's going to own the team. Now, one of the all-time great analysis articles that I never wrote was about this because I watched that announcement and then I watched this one. And back then I thought, what this is going to teach us is the difference between what David Beckham can do personally and David Beckham, the brand, which is glitz and showbiz, what we saw in the video. Now, it took 4 years and countless hurdles over trying to get a stadium site, trying to purchase land, trying to get MLS almost, at least this is how I understand it, there was a rumor that this team wasn't going to happen. And one of the co-owners actually talked about it, how they were about 30 to 60 minutes away from pulling the plug on the whole thing. What this press conference did, this one in 2018, was basically rubber stamp David Beckham, yes, you're going to get your franchise. yes, you will be the 25th team in MLS, and away you go. They're going to have one more expansion team that they'll probably announce in a couple months, bring us up to 26. But there wasn't much different. But you have to, David Beckham in the press conference talked about his personality of being persistent. And that's the same thing I heard Sir Alex Ferguson talk about him. He's the former Manchester United manager. Same thing he said about Beckham was that he made his career on the field so great through persistence, hard work every single day. Well, 4 years of trying to get a team launched, and he finally did it. So, yeah, this is David Beckham, the man, getting the job done. It took a while, but, yeah, he's right there. So, congratulations.
Yeah, I'm personally still more excited about Nashville. But, yeah. That about does it.
Didn't you grow up in Florida?
Yeah, but it was west coast of Florida, Gulf Coast. Okay. And you kind of have gripes against people from Miami. But got it. You got a final word? I'm keeping my eye on the
I do, yes.
transfer tracker. Oh, you do? All right.
Yes. Jeff Cameron, United States international defender, came out in an interview published today in the New York Times, said two things. One, had U.S. Soccer not fired Jurgen Klinsmann, they would have qualified for the World Cup. Oh. And two, Bruce Arena made mistakes that led to the United States' failure to qualify for the World Cup. These are quotes. They're on the record in the New York Times. Basically, Bruce Arena, a couple weeks ago at the National Coaches Convention, he made an allusion to some bad eggs in the camp. He said the chemistry wasn't right, and that's why they didn't qualify. Now Cameron comes out with this, so when I read the Arena article, I said, "Oh, I wonder who those bad eggs were." And was trying to figure it out. Well, yeah, we can kind of tell based on what Cameron said and what Arena's response was, which was very diplomatic, was that there was a lot of tension in the group certainly between Cameron and Arena. Now Cameron didn't start the last two qualifiers because he had been injured for much of the training camp and but then he was healthy and was upset that he didn't play. But he played 90 minutes in the Premier League game before joining up with the national team. Yeah. And Bruce Arena said back then that there was a problem with his fitness. There's still this fallout going on. Yeah. And there's still a bit of a grudge that that Cameron's carrying. So yeah, very outspoken. I was surprised to see that, and it just came out a couple hours ago. So I thought I'd surprise you with it.
That you did surprise me with that, and I like Jeff Cameron, but I'm not convinced that that's the only. It's not that simple, is what I would say. And
if they kept Jurgen Klinsmann, do you think they qualify?
No. Well, no. Just I refuse to think that that's the reason, because when Jurgen Klinsmann was there, they lost their first two qualifying matches, and I kind of. Well, there was all these questions about Jurgen's tactical managing, but I also look at the players, and there's also all the overall U.S. soccer stuff, which I think is kind of a bigger scope thing to deal with. But as far as this qualifying campaign, the players I think are getting off the hook a little bit. They, I don't know, where were they booed maybe one match after the qualification ended in MLS
for the playoffs they were.
Yeah, and they'll still be remembered for not having qualified, but I think that, Jeff Cameron didn't play in those last two qualifiers, but the talent on the field was better than the opposition, and we proved that when we beat Panama 3-0 or whatever it was, and then when we go out against Trinidad and Tobago and you lose that match 2-1, the only excuse, or not excuse, the only reason I think is a lack of mental strength by the players and maybe the coach, but just I don't think we weren't good enough. Not talent, not physical talent, mental talent or mental strength.
If they kept Klinsmann, I don't think they qualify. I think the soccer had gone stale years before 2017.
Well, I thought we had such a fun and happy show, and to end on that note, it's a little sad.
That's okay.
That's all right. We'll be back next week. There's more to talk about, and Champions League a little further down the road. Trying to think of a happy note to end on.
SoundCloud, iTunes.
The Revolution won their first preseason match, 4-3. There you go. Thanks for joining us. Follow us on iTunes, YouTube, and NESN.com/podcast.